When the guilt over Brainwave's death becomes too much to handle, Yolanda is forced to make a decision. Hello, everyone. I'm Steve from Valhartv, and today I'll be reviewing Stargirl Season 2, Episode 7. So this episode starts out with Yolanda in church asking the priest if the devil is real. And she's obviously freaking out, but then we keep getting flashbacks. Her head starts hurting again, and she starts seeing Brainwave and Henry, and she's just, and then she gets really overwhelmed. She's very overwhelmed and feels guilty about what she had to do. And she's really kind of acting crazy in this episode. And I thought this was okay because we do get to see what happens when a person ends up having to do something that is kind of really against their nature. Yolanda never struck me as that type of person, but they made her that way, and I feel like that's kind of a shame too, because the hero's story arc is kind of lost nowadays. It's either you're a Mary Sue, you're super good at everything, or you're not, and you don't have a real arc. Like the hero's journey is what I'm trying to say, is really not there in any of the shows. Again though, when I reviewed Superman and Lois, I really did think that was a great CW show, and we really did get to see arcs in that in a hero's journey that was actually good. So they can write it. They just, I think, choose not to in certain shows. It's really sad and awkward, for shows like this to suffer from like hero characters that really aren't that interesting compared to their villain counterparts, and I've said it before in previous reviews that I think the original ISA villains, the older villains, were a lot more interesting than the younger villains or the younger heroes. So you really see it in this episode because it slows it right down. Now, we do get to see Courtney and Cameron actually spend some time together, and I thought this was kind of neat because they're setting up, helping decorate for the holiday that's coming up. And it was kind of a nice change. Even though that she is keeping a secret from him, she's trying to actually live a normal life, even though she really isn't paying attention to what's going on with Yolanda, and like her other friends, the other JSA members, really. So I think that she needs to work on that a little more. But while all this is happening, we do get to see a couple glimpses of Eclipso. Like one is in the diner, and then one is outside the diner. And he's in his little kid form. And I believe this is supposed to be Dr. Midnight as a boy. So there is some kind of backstory between Eclipso and Dr. Midnight. So I'm interested in to see where that's going. Shade also makes a brief appearance in this, asking for help to Barbara, from Barbara. And again, this is brief because this whole episode is more about Yolanda than it is anything else. So Yolanda gets her own episode, I should say. And we get to find out what's really happening to Yolanda in this as well, which, again, I did call in a previous episode. I said I was wondering if this happened while she was watching Brainwave pass away. And we do get to find out in this episode. In the meantime, too, the priest is freaked out a little bit about what's going on with Yolanda, and he calls her mother. And of course, her mother is still a terrible person. I was very surprised. Actually, I'm really not surprised anymore because they painted her family, other than her little brother, as being mean to her and just terrible to her, like terrible people. And it's still no different. After a year, it's still no different. And this episode really slows down because it was more focused on Yolanda. And it was more plot driven for her character. So we're seeing an arc for her character, but I didn't feel like it was very well written out. I understand that she's feeling really guilty and she has to make a decision in this, which is something that anybody would end up doing as well. But I felt like this could have been just a little bit better. The effects in this, they were fine. There was no real effects in this at all. It was more story driven, I should say, plot driven. We do get to see again where Shade makes a brief appearance. So I thought that was kind of neat. But again, other than that, it was all practical effects in this. The acting again was the same as it's been. Everybody was fine in their roles. Had no issues with the acting. Again, these are young actors, so I give them a pass for trying to act some of it. Sometimes they get like really good scenes. Other times they don't, but that's because they're younger and they're not as experienced. So this episode shows us what guilt can do to a person and how much they can doubt themselves and just really become self-loathing, especially if they feel like it's their fault. And this really shows us that. But this also ends up showing us that Calypso is still hanging around Blue Valley, and he's up to no good. He's up to mischief. We see it in the diner. We see that everybody's, talking about how our man didn't end up deleting Solomon Grundy, and things like that. And everybody's just doubting, what, like their decisions, And Mike even gets to start to train in this, and he can't turn a wrench. It's great. This Pat is such a douche to him. Like, I feel like that was a real douchey move on Pat's part because he's trying to keep him out of it. Even now, even though he said he would let him start helping and start training him, he gives him a task he knows he's not going to be able to do. And I feel like Pat really needs to start stepping up and actually training these kids because they're not going to stop doing things. They're not going to stop being JSA members. They're not going to stop going up against the bad guys. And Pat really needs to understand that, and he needs to start training these kids and getting them into stuff so they can actually protect themselves better, so they can get better at being superheroes and a team instead of just being kind of a douche and being like, nah, I'll give you this. And I know it's going to take you forever to do it, so that's awesome. I'm going to keep you out of harm's way, and it's not going to work. In the end, especially with Calypso running around free, it's not going to happen. And he needs to understand that, and he needs to stop working with just Courtney. We see that again in this episode where he's just really working with Courtney and not anybody else. And he needs to stop that. He needs to actually get this new JSA into an actual team where they can cooperate with each other. They can coordinate, fights and things like that instead of just trying to all go gung-ho at whatever they're trying and it fails because they're either in each other's way or they're not secure in being able to fight, and it showed in last episode too when they went up against 3 of the members of the ISA. I was just like, wait, what? I was like, really? I was like, man, these ISA kids are wiping the floor with the JSA, and JSA's had more practice, at fighting different people from last season. So I really am interested to see what Calypso's still doing there. I want to see more of Shade, too. I want to see what's happening with him. So leave a comment down below. Let me know what you guys thought about this episode. And if you like what I do, please hit the like button and also subscribe. Take care for now, everyone.